Well, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you, all
Well,
the way
thank
from
you.
England.
From England, I know. So in reading your form, I saw that you have always been fascinated with storytelling, even as a child. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when I was 11 years old, I asked my mum for a. Oh, right. So I'm going to tell you how old I am right straight off because that's going to give people context. Otherwise, they'll be like, what is she talking about? So I'm 48, just turned 48.
No way.
Yeah. I know.
You look fantastic. So we'll talk more about that later. Okay.
It's the ring light.
The
I have
filters.
a filter. So no, I am. Yeah, I am 48. But when I was 11, which was a long time ago now, I asked my mum to bring home from where she was working at the time as a secretary, an old sort of electric, one of the first electric typewriters. Okay, so this was the precursor to word processing, and that was a precursor to PCs and laptops, etc. So I was really proud when she brought home this really heavy, big, chunky electric typewriter. You plugged it in, you switched it on, and it made this noise, and you just typed away. You still had to use paper. It wasn't the old-fashioned manual, really heavy key typewriter. It was easier to use because it was a much lighter touch on the keyboard. And I was so pleased. I don't know how normal that is for an 11-year-old child to be really enthralled by a piece of equipment like that. But I actually wanted to write my own magazine. So I started collecting stories from within my family home. True stories. I would sit there and observe what the family was doing, and I would write these stories out, all completely true, all authentic stuff. And I would make up competitions, I would make up columns. I even had an opinion piece, which was me basically sharing my thoughts about the weather or about, I don't know, I used to love fame. I talk about fame quite a lot from the
Please tell me you
80s.
still have a copy of this somewhere.
Yeah, I've got some, yeah, they're still floating around somewhere. And then my stepdad, otherwise known as my publisher, would take my original copy to work, photocopy it, staple it, bring back the copies, and the next day I'll go into the school playground and sell them for about 5 pence or 10 pence each. I don't know what that would be now in cents, but yeah. So I had no idea, but the whole village knew about my personal life and my families and the family arguments. And yeah, even now my friends' parents are all in their 70s, every now and again they sort of, if I happen to visit their house, oh, I remember that magazine you used to create, and it was fantastic. We knew you had a great future ahead of you as a writer. And in the meantime, my poor mum was in the background going, oh my God, what's my doing to me? And it was picked up and published by the local paper. My at the time, my primary school head teacher sent it into the local paper to the kids section without telling me. And I think they ran some kind of competition or something. And they ran it. So the whole county of Cambridgeshire knew my mum's opinion about this and that and the other. And my brother's latest dance, he was really into body popping and body breaking, and all my friends loved him. Oh God, you're amazing. So yeah, so that's how it sort of started, really. When I was really young, I would write sort of, little short stories, and I just used to get lost in it, basically. And that's where it started. And then I did a postgrad in journalism. I did my German degree, living in between London and Germany. And I then went on to do a postgraduate certificate in journalism. And then I went into communications work from there.
What is it about journalism and storytelling that excites you?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's instinct. I'm really nosy. I love to know what people I think most writers will tell you that secretly they're just nosy. You know, we want to know what motivates people, what makes people tick. I love talking to people I haven't met before because I want to know their story. I want to know why they are the person they are. And I love to see how people connect with each other as well. So how they build relationships. And I think that is really important to telling a good story. A lot of it is about that bonding, that relationships between, you know, the storyteller and the people you're observing, and how the story flows, relationships between the words, between the paragraphs, etc. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's a craft, it's an art form. And I don't know, I remember even when I was 5 or 6, I remember getting really excited about grammar classes at school when the teacher would describe the difference between an apostrophe and a comma, and I'd get really excited by it, and I still do. Again, most writers would say the same thing. We're a bit weird in that we love punctuation, and we love, you know, the sort of slight change, the slight adjustments you can make with just one little symbol. It can change the meaning of a whole sentence. Mm-hmm. And I am one of those people who, if I see a misused apostrophe or comma or something on a sign out in the street, I will have to take deep breaths. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Rather than go in and sort of point out their mistake, which I've done before, and it doesn't really go down very well.
You know, but sometimes you have to, because I remember being at this local bar, and right next door was a tattoo shop that had a misspelt word. And I was like, I will never understand how people come here to get a tattoo when there's clearly a misspelled word in one of your signs.
Yeah, that's really concerning. That's really concerning. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I get excited, and we here at the podcast have adopted the Oxford comma, much to my co-host's chagrin at times, because in her world they don't use it. So,
controversial.
It has been. It's a touchy subject here on the podcast. But I've just enjoyed learning a lot about your career. So can you share a little bit more about, you know, where your travels have taken you to?
Yeah. So literally and metaphorically, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, oh my God, where do I start? I've got a lot of stories to tell, but I'm going to sort of just pick out the ones that I think are going to be that are most unexpected, I think. I have traveled a lot, but my first time overseas on my own, I was 17. And I jumped on a train and went to what was the former Eastern Germany. I'll try not to. I tend to lapse a little bit into German when I think about Germany, so I'm going to try really hard not to. I've been watching a German program on Netflix as well, which is good for the language skills, but you know, it sort of comes out my mouth out sometimes without me knowing. So Eastern Germany. I was over there just after the wall had come down, which was, again, a long time ago in 1989, and it was all quite sudden, although they'd, you know, been simmering away for a long time, and the Soviet Union was on its way out, etc. And it was an amazing time to be there. It's one of the, it's one of the most important and significant points in European history, modern history, you know. To sort of witness the collapse of a state which was divided, or a country divided over 40 years. So you had two very different peoples having to learn to work together. And I happened to go over there at a time when I was doing my A-level German to polish up my language skills before my exams. And unlike usual German students, I didn't go to Western Germany where everything was lovely and shiny, and you know, industries were established, and it was very similar society to the UK. I went to the former Eastern Germany where it wasn't at all. It was very, very different. You could see the differences in culture then. Now you can't, but then you really could. You know, you cross the border and on the train or bus or whatever, and the buildings would be, you know, really mismanaged, just left to rack and ruin, you know. But everyone had a job. They did have a job, and everyone had somewhere to live, everyone had transport, everyone had free medical care. And that was all taken away from them almost overnight. And I was there at a time when the East Germans were sort of getting their head around this. You know, will I have a job next week? Will I be able to go to college? Will I be able to finish my education? You know, are my skills going to be applicable? Because a lot of people had to retrain because the West Germans more or less moved into East Germany and said, this qualification's obsolete, that qualification's obsolete, that one's okay. So I was there. I remember sitting in my friend's living room with her family and friends, listening to one of the government's live broadcasts about all this stuff. And I was 17 and I was sitting there looking around the room thinking, oh my God, why is everyone so serious? You know, because I had no understanding of what on earth was going on. But that was my first experience of, I guess, understanding how another culture works at a huge point in their lives and history. It's only really when I got to university and beyond, I really started to understand how significant that moment was in my life. And I think that really prepared me for telling those stories and seeing that personal side stories, you know, and how life can change massively, as we all know with COVID, you know, almost overnight for some people. So that was really amazing to sort of be sort of dropped into this unfamiliar environment, and at that point relatively unfamiliar language, and trying to get my head around, wow, these people are just being plunged into uncertainty. Yeah, so that was huge. So that was one of the first experiences of me sort of really getting to know another kind of society, another way of living, and also, yeah, I mean, that sort of set me on a path to live in Germany a few more times after that, or visit and live in Germany a few more times after that, and also travel further afield. And I've always loved meeting people from other cultures. I absolutely love it. I used to be a bit of a travel bug, not so much these days because I'm older and I have bills to pay, and you know, I'm not as footloose and fancy free as I used to be, sadly. But you know, I'm sure I'll get back out there again. But I've spent a lot of time traveling and meeting amazing people, and just gathering memories and stories that I still share with people, and I'm sure I'll be sharing with other people until, you know, the day I kick the bucket, as it were. And yeah, I mean, that richness of life for me is really important because it sort of underpins everything else that I do in life, including writing. And also I bring that life experience to talking to journalists as well, because weirdly, but it feels weird, it's not weird at all because I'm getting older and younger generations are coming into the workplace, which is great to see because they generate such amazing new innovative stuff. It's wonderful. But I do have that experience when I'm pitching a story to a younger journalist. You know, it's great to be able to just add a bit of life experience to what I'm pitching as well, which obviously I couldn't do when I was younger because I never had that life experience. So yeah, right. I've done a lot with my life. And I think it sort of somehow inspires what I do, definitely.
And it's your world that you were in for so long, right? I mean, since you were a little girl, gathering stories and sharing and telling, and you were in this for quite a bit, right? And this was your life's work, and then things changed, right?
That's it. Yeah. So I was working for, I don't know, looking back, must have been about 17, 18 years in various comms roles. So music, film, PR. I worked in the not-for-profit sector. For big charities and small charities, which was fantastic, amazing. I worked for the British Red Cross, loved it. And yeah, I mean, I was living in London for 20 years, working really hard because you just have to work hard just to keep a roof over your head in London. You have to work even harder if you want to make a lot of money in London. And it is really hard work. It's such a difficult city to live in. If you're not loving it, if you're not going out all the time and really making the most of the place, it's just hard work. And it got to the point Well, I had to leave in 2014 because prices were just going up and up and up, and I couldn't stay there anymore. It was unaffordable, and I left. And I carried on. Well, that's when I went freelance for the first time. And then I carried on working, ended up back in employment again to pay bills. And I, at the time, was in a very difficult relationship. It started out well, and then it went pretty sour. My partner at the time had some serious, undiagnosed, but to me it became quite obvious he had some serious mental health issues. Depression was one of them, but there was a hell of a lot else going on. And he had a history, as you do when you get to a certain age, children from former relationships, some of them difficult, some of them not so difficult family dynamics going on, and he was trying to manage that while I was trying to manage a boss who was bullying me. She was also racist. I'm mixed race, and so it didn't go down very well at all with me, which I know is a very British way of saying it, but it was nasty. The comments, they weren't aimed towards me, but she was one of these people who would come out with a classic line, "I'm not racist, but," and then she would go on to say something racist. I mean, it wasn't subtle, it was out there. It was just, whoa. Anyone who looked Middle Eastern was a terrorist. Anyone who didn't speak perfect English didn't belong. They shouldn't be in my town, they shouldn't be living here. It was horrible stuff. And that kind of thing wears you down over time. It wears you down. I worked in London for 20 years, didn't really have any experience of that, because London is this amazing, diverse melting pot of cultures. It's amazing. But after leaving London, I really noticed that there was still really awful racist attitudes towards anyone who isn't white, anyone who isn't Western European, put it that way. And so, I came up against that, and it just all got too much. And she was a terrible manager. She likened herself to Anna Wintour, which was hilarious because she was nowhere near as gifted as Anna Wintour. And who would want to compare themselves to her anyway these days?
The gall.
Yeah, right. It's just, what? Are you crazy? But it all really got to me. And unfortunately, I left my relationship, became homeless because I was living in his place with him. And I didn't have a support network because I was quite new to the area. I live in Suffolk in the UK. And I had a breakdown, which was amazing to me when I found out, because it didn't feel like a breakdown. Whatever a breakdown is supposed to feel like, what I was going through didn't feel what I thought was a breakdown. I just felt really, really, really ill, constantly unwell. And then a few months later, my doctor said, yeah, you've probably had a breakdown. But they don't like using that term here because it's not a medically recognized term.
Mm.
So they use words like anxiety, depression, autoimmune issues. But anyway, that's what happened. And it was quite a shock when I found out, actually.
When you say that it wasn't what it was supposed to be, what was it for you?
Yeah, really good question. And everyone has their own experience of whether it's a breakdown or other mental health issues. Everyone has their own experience. So mine sort of manifested slowly over a few months. It started with really bad headaches created by stress. I was going through a lot of chronic stress because of my personal and professional environments. And then I started having those headaches progressed into migraines. So I remember once I was working on my laptop and suddenly my arms and legs went weak, and I saw that. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I don't know if you ever had that migraine aura, which is sort of like a multicolored jellyfish in your vision. It was in the middle of my vision right here. And I remember just sitting there with my hands on my laptop thinking, this is weird. This is really weird. What's going on? I thought I was having a stroke. I really did. I thought, oh my God. But I managed to get back to the apartment where I was living at the time and called the hospital, and I had to go in for checks, and they said, no, it's not a stroke. It's just stress, which at the time I just thought, oh man, here we go. stress is really, really dangerous, right? It can really impact your health. And I just thought, this consultant is telling me it's just stress.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what does that mean to you? That I just found that really strange way of just sort of, I don't know, getting me out of the room and, you know, back home. But I did rest for a little while after that. And then I found I had a lump in my breast. So I went for an emergency checkup and I ended up having a scan. Everything was fine, but it was basically a stress, a lump caused by stress, because it's something to do with the glands. And when your body's run down, the glands sort of react or overreact, and it can cause sort of lumps in the sort of area of your armpits and your breasts, and it all sort of builds up a bit. So yeah, luckily I was fine, but it was one shock. It was a big shock. And then things got a lot worse, both professionally and with my ex-partner. And I left. It all happened really quickly. I had to get out of the place I was living with him, because it was a very toxic environment. And I had to just go. And because it was so sudden, I had nowhere to live. And the stress of that just, it was pretty awful. I was having panic attacks. I was in constant state of anxiety. So I'd wake up in the middle of the night. I swear, even to this day, you know, I'm sure the panic was waking me up. So my body was going through something really intense during the night, and that would wake me up, and it felt like the ceiling was falling on top of me. Such a strange feeling. And then I started noticing my legs would just give way without any warning. And I was having migraines, and I was, you know, insomnia. I had a flare up in my back. My back was in pain. Depression. I tell you what it feels like. It feels like a constant bad flu mix with a really bad hangover, but it's constant. And that was my breakdown. There wasn't some dramatic scene, you know, where the ambulance had to come and, you know, take me away, as it were, as I've seen in movies in the past. It wasn't at all like that. It was a slow progression, and my body was slowly giving way. So my physical body was reacting to my mental situation, if you like, my mental status. And I'd never seen such a closely sort of connected sort of process, really. I mean, it was, if you look at it objectively, it's fascinating just to see how clearly your body just kind of starts, not so much shutting down, but just it really struggles. And it all came from stress, which was a massive life lesson. So as a consequence, I now live with a chronic illness, which is, in America, it's known as chronic fatigue syndrome, CFS. Over here, it's ME. Sometimes CFS, but mainly ME. So that's a chronic illness, and I'm still living with it 3 years later. Yeah. So it's been over 3 years since I had the breakdown, and I'm still sick, but it's manageable, which is why I'm sitting here talking to you, you know, on a Saturday evening. But I've rested all day today to make sure I could sit here and be with you and talk to you, rather than sort of rush around all day and then drag myself to my laptop, and I wouldn't be, you know, I just wouldn't be giving you the information that you need from me and want to hear from me, you know.
We want to hear from you, absolutely. And we appreciate that very much. And I'm curious, when you say, you know, objectively looking at it, you see that close connection. When did you actually have that conscious realization that, hey, this stress is what's making my body react in these ways?
When did I have the recognition? I guess it was quite early on in the process, because I was fairly aware of the connection between mind body, you know, the mind body spirit, if you like, connection. So I've been into alternative therapies, natural health, for a long time, since I was a teenager. So that side of life is nothing new to me. I kind of understood that and also did a diploma in nutritional therapy in my 30s, about 10 years ago. So I know that there is a very strong connection between what goes on in your mind and what happens in your body. You know, we have chemicals rushing around our body. I mean, it's difficult. It's funny because I don't really like the term mental health, because it's just your health. And I think, I really hope that one day in the future, the medical system will just look at your holistic health rather than chop the body into bits and into departments. You know, when you go into hospital, you've got sort of lungs over there, neurology over here, whatever. You know, you go to your orthopedics, you know, and I understand why it is the way it is, of course. But when you have something like ME, which is a full body experience from your brain, your nervous system, throughout your body, it doesn't really help, because that division of the body is not what it doesn't help you really, you know. So that's why ME CFS is really difficult to treat, because the medical system isn't set up to treat a full sort of holistic problem. So for me, mental health is also physical health, because mental health is created by stress hormones and, you know, all kinds of things going on in your body, kind of released by the adrenals, which then impacts your other glands in your body, and then and that's when the chaos can start, you know, and it can lead to much more serious things down the road. So I mean, I really think I got off lightly. It sounds like a really weird thing to say, but I think I got off very lightly with a breakdown in chronic illness like ME, because I think it could have been a lot worse had I not listened to my body, had I not sort of realized I was in the wrong relationship and I was with the wrong employer. I think I could have just sort of oppressed it, and then eventually it would have come out, I think, in a much more serious way. That's just my opinion. If anyone from the medical world, you know, medical professionals listening to this might disagree, then I understand that and I respect that. But I've always feel like if you suppress certain emotions, then eventually it will come out physically, one way or the other.
Absolutely. We completely agree with that.
You mentioned earlier how you now manage ME CFS. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, a good question, especially when you're self-employed. Really, really difficult. It's really challenging. But one of the reasons why I am self-employed is because I lost my last job. I mean, one thing I didn't tell you a moment ago is that although I was sort of diagnosed with a nervous breakdown, I went out and got a new job because I had nowhere to live and I needed an income. And the welfare state over here isn't adequate enough. It just wouldn't have been enough money to sustain, you know, keep a roof over my head, etc. So I thought, well, okay, I'm going to have to get another full-time job. And I did. I got another full-time job while I was feeling like absolute rubbish, day in, day out, not sleeping, having these massive panic attacks, you know, my legs given away from underneath me. So I'll be kind of walking around the office holding on to desks and things, thinking, no, you're going to be fine. Engage your core muscle. You can stay upright. You're fine, Elma. You're going to be fine. So I create all these techniques and then deliver a full-time job in a really busy PR agency. And then I lost my job a year later because my health deteriorated. Surprise, surprise. But you know, but I decided that's it. I'm not going to go back into employment ever again, because I feel as if now I knew by then that something chronic was going on perhaps. And yeah, so being self-employed enables you to take breaks whenever you want to. And it can be something as simple as, I need to stop working today, whether it's 1 p.m., 3 p.m., whatever. You haven't got a boss watching your every move. Like, why are you going home? You know, that no one can say that to me, because I can just shut down my laptop, turn off my devices, and just go and sit or meditate or go into my garden, or, you know, I can just tune out, even if it's just for half an hour or so. I can tune out. I have that flexibility, and that's definitely, I think, one of the biggest benefits of self-employment. you work to your own timetable, really.
And one of the things that you mentioned was that having this self-employment and you being your own boss now, you had to be the focus of your business. Your health had to be that priority. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I decided to continue my career, but as a self-employed person, I thought, well, okay, what's important to me in my life? I've gone through a very, very, very challenging time, to say the least. And life's too short. You know what? My perspective and values have shifted a little bit. And I wanted to work with people who shared my values. And as I mentioned earlier on, I've always been into natural health. I'm also spiritual. So I've always been into well-being, different modalities of well-being. And also I wanted to work with people who shared my values in terms of ethics and sustainability, etc. So that's how I relaunched my business, as a PR consultant and coach. And I now create courses for people who work in the ethical space, which sounds quite general, and it is. But for me, within that ethical space are people who I automatically get on with. We share the same values. We want the same things. We're all heading in the same direction, if you like. And we're all pretty progressive. Just yesterday, I had this really wonderful chat with a lady who runs a group in the UK called Inspiring Women Changemakers. And she is amazing. And I met her through another woman who runs a networking group for ethical entrepreneurs. So I'm meeting these fantastic people who want to make positive changes in society. And I think COVID and Black Lives Matters has ramped it up way up there. So people are on fire right now. They're like, right, come on, guys, let's move things forward before it's too late. We can't let this opportunity go by. And none of this obviously was predicted, so I've sort of entered this sector and I'm working with these people who are just blowing my mind, every day. And in my last job, I was doing public relations for brands that just didn't, they just didn't rev my engine, put it that way. It was just, yeah, you do a really good job. It's a great brand. It's a great business, but yeah, it doesn't really do anything for me. But now it's just, yeah, that's cool. So I can get lost in conversations with people now, and that's amazing with clients. And that hasn't happened for a very long time. So yeah, I wanted something positive to come out of my health issues. I think you have to. I think most entrepreneurs are optimistic people anyway, and they will push themselves as far as they can to create a life for themselves that works for them first and foremost. And then once you've got that in place, then I think the rest comes quite easily. So yeah, it's a tough balance. It's a really tough balance to maintain, but I know for a fact there are loads of other people out there who suffer from all kinds of chronic illnesses, mental health issues, who are self-employed for the flexibility and also because they want to work in the way that they want to work, excuse me, and work with people that they feel are going to respect them as well, which is also really important. So yeah.
I love that. You mentioned earlier that you wanted something positive to come out of your illness. And prior to us meeting, I was taking a look at your website, and there's a part of there, something that you've written on there that I really love. And you wrote, although born out of misfortune, my business is built upon positive foundations. My experiences have shown me that well-being and success are intrinsically connected. You simply cannot sustain one without the other. And what really hit me was that positive foundations part. So what positive foundations have you built into your business?
Oh, I have to think about that. Difficult question to answer because I haven't done it. I don't think I've done it consciously. I've sort of thought, well, who do I want to work with? Who are the people who I know are going to respect me and have integrity themselves and respect other people, not just me, but other people around them. And then I sort of went from there, really. But in terms of my own health and my well-being, I promised myself to be honest and transparent. So let's say if a client asked me to write a press release and issue it to the press, and I feel a little bit run down and tired, and I think, oh my gosh, I could probably do it, but I don't know if I'll do a decent job of it, I will say, no, I'm sorry. And I'll tell them why. I'm very open about my health. I think, one, it's important to be open about all kinds of health issues, because, you know, other people learn from you. And that's another thing about being a bit older as well, older than a lot of people I'm actually working with, is that I want to set an example, because I didn't have that kind of example when I was younger. And I think I really, really would have benefited from having older professionals sort of be more open about their health. But when I was in my 20s and 30s, it was all still very hush hush, you know, swept under the carpet in a very British way, stiff upper lip and all that, you know, let's carry on, which I really carry on, we're British. Mm-hmm. I hate that. I've always really, really opposed the stiff upper lip thing. It's just bonkers to me. It makes no sense. I've always been one for being open and honest. And then if people have, you know, if their values don't align with yours, or they think, oh, you know what, we want someone who's going to work 24/7 for us, I'm definitely not the right person for them. Definitely not. Yeah, so that's really important. Just be open and honest, talk about your problems. And generally what I find is when I start talking about the problems, the other person will open up to me, and we have this really amazing connection and chat. You know, I've met lots of people who've also have ME just because I've said it, or I recognize it in their, almost in their body language and the things that they're saying. Oh, I think I might understand what's going on here, which is really, really amazing and really empowering as well.
Absolutely. Everything you're saying is so empowering. I'm wondering though, how have your clients reacted to you saying that no? Because I know people are so afraid of saying no because, oh, I'm going to lose that business. People aren't going to want to come back to me. So what can you share with us what your experience has been with having that honest conversation with people and just saying, you know what, I just can't right now?
Yeah, it's really positive. You know, when I first went self-employed in 2014, I would say yes to absolutely everything. And as time went by and speaking to more experienced self-employed people, I realized, and the advice I got sort of reconfirmed this, is that if you keep saying yes, you will not get the clients that you want to work with. And that's why I'm sidetracking a little bit. But that's why it's really important to really sit down with yourself and define what it is that you want to be, what it is that you and your business need to be for you. And then you will know how to market your business. Being a PR, I was trained to do it the other way around. For me, it's the audience first. In PR, the audience comes first. All right. So everything you do in PR, you massage whatever content or editorial you're putting together for the people who are going to be watching it, listening to it, or reading it. But when it comes to my business, so many people told me, you know, that you really have to put yourself first. And then when you start saying no, you can say no with conviction. So you have that confidence within, you have that sort of like inner strength, and you say no and you don't feel bad about it. And when I've said no to people, it generally has never been a problem. I mean, what I tend to do is I say, I don't think I could do that right now because of, you know, I have this health issue, or I might just have another project that I'm doing, so I can't do another project when the other client wants me to do the project. So what I do is I refer them to people that I know are going to do the job that they want them to do. So what I try to do is not go back with a straight no. I say, no, I'm really sorry. I'll give them a reason, a genuine reason. And then I'll sort of say, you might want to try this amazing PR professional, or I'll steer them in a general direction as where to find another PR. So I try to sort of do that, sort of help them on their way. rather than just put the barrier up. But I have to say, it hasn't really, saying no, it hasn't happened in a while. I tend to, if I can, I negotiate timings as well. So I can't do it right now, but how about in a month's time? And generally, when it comes to public relations, a client will come to me, they haven't got the PR expertise. There's generally quite a lot that they haven't thought through that I need to go through with them anyway. And it actually turns out some of the time that had that press release gone out like in a couple of days' time, it would have been totally eclipsed by a big announcement, by a massive film release or a massive, I don't know. I mean, COVID is knocking things all over the place right now. So news agenda is, as it is in the States, constantly changing at the moment, minute by minute. It's just crazy. But before COVID, it would change quickly as well, obviously. But the PR's job is to tell the client or to guide the client and make sure that that story is issued at the right time. So I tend to talk to the client and sort of, okay, I can't do it now, but what's the rush? Why do you want to do it? And if they have a good answer, then I would say, yeah, okay, I definitely can't do it. You need to talk to this person. So, but yeah, I will never feel guilty for saying no, because if I keep saying yes, then I'm not gonna benefit from it. So it's really important to sustain your well-being.
That's definitely a strength in terms of being able to concretely say no. And so I'm really happy that you possess that. What other strengths do you possess that have allowed you to overcome the obstacles of your illness?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the illness has made me very resilient. And resilience isn't about, being, you don't feel like you've made out of a steel rod or anything. You're more like a willow tree or a bamboo that sort of sways in the wind. I know that's a bit of a cliched comparison, but you do have to, you've got to go with the flow a lot of the time and just deal with issues and challenges as they pop up in your own way. As I was asked earlier, what was your experience of your breakdown? Everyone has their own experience of being resilient. No one does it in the same way. And when you're self-employed, that's great because you can be resilient in your own way, and you have to figure out how to just sustain a good quality of life whilst working and dealing with whatever's going on in your life. It doesn't have to be a chronic illness. It could be children, it could be a sick partner, it could be a sick parent that you're having to look, it could be anything, young carers, kids in who are in positions of, they're in a caring position at the age of 12, 13, they are amazing, resilient people because they're growing up with this ability just to sort of almost roll with the punches and deal with the challenges as they pop up. I mean, it's not the ideal way for a child to grow up, but I don't know why that example popped into my head. But I feel as if my resilience is helped me deal with COVID as well. Lockdown happened here really suddenly. The government they saw it coming but did nothing about it, and it's created absolute havoc here. The sudden lockdown, and industries are going under. And yeah, I think because of my resilience that I developed because of ME and traveling a lot and being self-employed and dealing with, bully bosses and racist employers, what have you, all of that has helped me get through the last few months of COVID, which put even more pressure on me, in addition to dealing with a chronic illness, keeping a roof over my head, putting food on the table, etc., etc. It's been really, 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 really hard, really hard. But I'm still here. I still have my home. I still have a business. Oh my God, I'm on a podcast to you guys, sharing my knowledge and experience. And I mean, it's only just occurred to me what a milestone this is actually. Because even a few months ago, I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to end up homeless. This is crazy. It's not going to work. This is crazy. But, you know, you somehow have to find that strength inside you. But I think part of finding that strength is going through the dips, going through the darker times, and allowing yourself to go to the darker side and just sit there with that uncomfortable feeling and think, oh my God, this is awful. This is just awful. And it's okay for things to feel as if things are awful, because they are pretty bad at the moment. But you get through that, you know? I think by allowing yourself to have that moment of, oh, okay, this isn't going well for me. I'm just going to tune out, turn on Netflix and just, you know, shut the world out. That enables you to come back stronger.
The first signature question is, reflecting back, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, yeah. Probably the most, I think the piece of advice that I could have used the most when I was younger was believe in yourself. Yeah, believe in yourself. Don't let other people shake your self-belief as much as you did. Because only you know, you do you, only you know who you are. And you have to really nurture that and take care of it, you know, and protect it at times. So believe in yourself. Yeah.
And looking forward, what one wish do you have for yourself, for your business on your current journey?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a tough one. I'm not quite sure I can answer that because things are changing here so quickly. Oh, wow. You might have to give me a few seconds to really sort of process this one, because that's a big question for me. Yeah. Because being self-employed, right, your business is you and you're the business. So the two are just so, they're connected. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, what I want to do with my business is take it 100% digital. So eventually I want to take a step back from, I guess, what you call hands-on public relations work. I would still do the odd campaign for people, but I would prefer to work with a network of other professionals to sort of, they'll do the work in, such as issuing press releases, pitching to journalists, and I'll do the strategy. But I also want to focus on coaching. During COVID, during lockdown, I actually did some life coaching training. So I'm a trained life coach as well now. And that's going to be something that I really want to work on too. And I guess, again, this is also new, and COVID has just triggered so many new ideas and opportunities. I feel as if I want to sort of coach women who are change makers as well. So that's in the direction I'm going in. And I really want to work with more Black brands and brands owned by people of color. I'm very involved in some creative projects happening here next year. And yeah, there's a lot going on. So that it's a very difficult question to answer, because it's just so much energy going around and creativity happening over here at the moment. It's quite, I've got to go with the flow for the time being. But I want to be well. I want to be happy. I want to live a good quality of life, and live closer to nature as I get a little bit older and slow down a bit. So yeah, I just want to be happy. That's the most important thing.
That is a great answer. What are you talking about? I love it. And I love that you're looking at all the opportunities that the COVID environment has kind of uncovered for you. I think it's easy to kind of get lost in the negativity. So I think it's wonderful that you're looking at what's possible rather than what's not there.
Yeah. Yeah. I am the eternal optimist. So, I think that go-getting 11-year-old, who's distributing, again, I'm doing a circular story thing. That 11-year-old who is, telling the whole village or school or whatever about what was going on inside her four walls is, that's an unusual thing for a kid to do, actually, I think. Maybe not so much now, but back then I think it was. You've got to use your creativity. You've got to sort of think, okay, what can I do? What is working for me right now? What isn't working? You've got to be ready to feel uncomfortable. And that's, again, going back to resilience thing. I think once you sit in that discomfort, it's not as scary as you think it's going to be, and you can get through it. You think, okay, yeah, it's not great right now, but things are going to get better, because things do get better. That's life, up and down. It just might not happen in the way you expect it to happen. Put it that way.
You can learn more about Elma Glasgow and the services she offers at elmaglasgowconsulting.com. We'll link this info and her online PR courses for ethical entrepreneurs on our website. So listeners, we're curious, how has stress impacted your life? Head to our private Facebook community where you can discuss this episode and share your thoughts. We'll also be dropping exclusive behind-the-scenes content with Elma where we talk about Black Lives Matter movement. We had a very interesting discussion on how the UK and Western Europe are embracing the movement. We want to thank our producer and music director, Ron Johnson. This has been an Astronomicus DMR production. Thank you for listening, and remember, it's never too late and you're right on time.